Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about Falcon and the Winter Soldier because I woke up this morning and after the 15 minutes that I usually allot myself to check myself out in the morning, I looked at my calendar and I realized, holy crap, it's March. Which means two things. First, and this is important, guys, there's going to be a global pandemic starting this month. Make sure you stay safe and follow guidelines so you can get back to normal as quickly as possible. I just wanted to warn you guys so that you would be prepared before it all went down. I'm from the future. I borrowed my dad's time machine. I remember he told me, make sure to use the 2021. So, wait, did he mean that the second thing that it means now that we're in March is that we're actually really close to the release of Falcon and the Winter Soldier? At the time this video drops, the finale for WandaVision is either just about to air or it aired very recently, after which we have a week off, and then boom, you're looking for this? Falcon and the Winter Soldier comes out next week. But here's the thing, right? I'm not too excited for it. Which is weird because I'm a really big fan of the MCU and I've been excited for basically everything they've put out for the past 10 years or so. Plus their recent track record is amazing. 4 out of their last 6 outputs have been at an elite level. They've been exciting and fun and have taken risks, and they're just really good signs that this franchise continues to have legs and can do some really cool stuff, which I explained more in my recent WandaVision video, shameless plug. But as much as the past couple years of Marvel content has been some of its best, I don't think we can fully ignore the 2 movies that came out in the middle of the Avengers movies that just don't hold the candle to not only the movies surrounding them, but the majority of phases 2 and 3. Captain Marvel is aggressively average and Ant-Man and the Wasp is a nothing sandwich. These movies have elements that are pretty important to the future of the MCU, but I can remember about 10% of this movie and 5% of this one. They're wildly forgettable and they really seem like the MCU on autopilot. I'm a bit concerned that squash between WandaVision and Loki, 2 shows that have really interesting premises and are exploring parts of the MCU that we've never really touched upon, is another property that's very similar to what we saw back then, where it just doesn't live up to the stuff immediately surrounding it. Now, I'll explain in a second why I think this show might not match the quality of the first property that's been shown in Phase 4, but I want to mention that I am still holding out hope for this show, and I think there are ways that it could be really great. This video is not meant to be a downer, and I don't want to bash a show that hasn't aired yet and call it trash, but before we talk about how it could blow our expectations out of the water, I want to mention why I think that it might not live up to those expectations. So with that in mind, let's get into why Falcon and the Winter Soldier might be a disappointment. If I was to pick apart the main reason from the outside why this show looks way less interesting than these other 2, I would probably say that it looks like it's playing it too safe, that it's stagnating, that it's reverting back to an outdated model for MCU properties, and that its gimmick is not original or appealing enough. Now, usually I would take these points one at a time and explain them individually, but they're pretty interconnected, so instead I'm just gonna mix them all into a soup and talk about them all together. Referring again to that video I made about WandaVision, I talked about how I think the best course of action for Marvel as a studio was to really push the movies and shows into more unique territories, ones that they haven't fully explored yet. This doesn't mean every single movie has to deal with the quantum realm or the multiverse or time travel, not at all, but instead it means that they could try to make movies or shows that go incredibly in-depth into character motivations and moral dilemmas, or play with the idea of the psychological tolls being a hero brings with it. It could also mean making movies that are more spy thriller than superhero film, or more horror than action. For established franchises, which you could absolutely see Falcon and the Winter Soldier as, since it's really just Captain America 4, the show, no Captain America, Electric Boogaloo. You can still make big strides in these departments while staying consistent. In fact, the previous Captain Americas have already done that. Cap 1 is a World War II movie about propaganda tactics, sacrifice, and what it truly means to be a hero, starring a character who's a patriot who will do anything for his country. Cap 2 is part spy movie, part political thriller, exploring the corruption in the system, and having Cap lose the trust he once had in his superiors. Cap 3 explores moral obligations, the negative repercussions of heroism, infighting, and having Cap fully reject the government and instead become a nomad who no longer looks to anyone for orders. I guess you could say I'm being a bit unfair to Falcon and Winter Soldier since it isn't out yet, and I'm talking about some things in the first 3 Cap movies that you could only know after fully seeing them. But the thing is that I feel like even before these movies came out, when you saw the trailers and the descriptions, you could tell the tonal and stylistic changes that would be happening with that movie. By contrast, Falcon and the Winter Soldier looks way more by the books and not as interesting. The description is just these 2 going out on an adventure to test their skills and their patience. Well, that sounds exciting. It's fun that Zemo's back, but I thought the whole idea of what made him cool was that he was just a catalyst in something already brewing and not a real threat in Cap 3. Whereas now he looks like he's going to be a much more typical villain. I guess you could say the new big thing in this show is that it's a superhero show that focuses on 2 characters that don't exactly love each other, but they still have to work through their differences, but come on, that's one of the most played out dynamics of all time. It doesn't make a show or movie bad, but it's not exactly a defining characteristic, and it seems like it's the big hook of the show, which is a bit concerning. Like WandaVision explores a pocket reality, Loki explores the freaking time police, and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I guess, has two characters that really hate each other. Woohoo! Now, with all that said, while I do think that we might be skewing a little bit over to the forgettable, not so interesting side of the MCU on this one, there's still definitely a ton of things that this show could do that would make it skew way over in the other direction. So let's talk really quickly about a few things that could make the show really great despite everything that I've mentioned. Making Zemo a psychological villain. Zemo was cool in Civil War because he was behind the scenes, pulling the strings, and pushing at pressure points, not going hand to hand with Tony or Cap. I assume he's going to be used similarly here. I doubt we're going to see much of him fighting our two boys with his own fist, and most of the fighting will be done by his henchmen, or maybe there's another villain in the show that provides a physical threat. What I'm really hoping for though is that the main conflict with Zemo isn't just, oh no, he's going to blow up this place, let's go stop him. Oh no, he's invoking a riot in this other place, let's go stop him again. But instead, Zemo really tries to destroy these two psyches. Whether it's getting them to distrust each other, or better yet, distrust themselves. Bucky has had a shady past, and Falcon probably has his doubts about himself taking over for Captain America. It would be so cool to have this villain that just lives inside of these dudes' heads and they can't shake him out. They're both capable fighters, but are they mentally prepared to truly take over for Captain America? I could be reaching here, but if WandaVision is all about reality and Loki is all about time, if Marvel is continuing their Infinity Stone motif, then Falcon and the Winter Soldier might honestly be a lot more about the mind than we thought it would be. At least that's my hope for it. This point also leads to another piece of potential that this show has, which is a chance to fully explore these characters. To date, Falcon has been kind of boring and in the background in these movies, and Bucky hasn't been given enough time to fully flesh out his personality and arc because in the 3 movies he plays a prominent role in, he isn't the Winter Soldier in the first, he's mind-controlled in most of the second, and he's kind of buried under a bunch of concurrent plot lines in the third. This show is 6 hours long apparently, and Bucky is one of only 2 main characters this time around, so it would be seriously wasted potential in my opinion to use this series to just toss action and quippy one-liners our way instead of actually exploring these characters, their thoughts, their feelings, and their true dynamic underneath the snarky comments. These two are characters that typically aren't people's favorites, but in fairness, Wanda and Vision were kind of in that exact same boat at the end of Phase 3. If this show gives proper time to the character development and goes way beyond the surface level, I think it's well worth it. Finally, make the Accords matter / give our characters secret missions. The Sokovia Accords were really important in Civil War, and while the fallout of that movie and the Accords did affect the grand scheme of things, namely making sure that the group wasn't together and fully prepared for the Thanos attack, people kind of forgot about the Accords and they don't exactly seem important. Granted, that's probably because the movies that followed Civil War were so high stakes that you kind of don't care about something like what the government thinks of Captain America when he's hurling Mjolnir at Thanos' face. But now that we're stepping down to some more ground level stuff, really explore how this universe has changed and what the state of the world is right now. In the trailers, it's clear that our 2 leads have been given access to equipment that makes them look like they have government support, which leads me to believe that they're probably in compliance with the Accords at the beginning of the show at least, even though Falcon was always against them before. I assume they were just kind of forced into following it. But if that's the case, don't just have their arc be that they start defying orders after a certain point. That's no fun. Like by the end, I don't want General Ross to just say, oh, you better not go after Zemo, and then they go after Zemo, and then he's just sitting there like, guys, I told you not to. Instead, what I think would be a lot cooler is to have them double agent in some kind of way, complying with the government at the surface, but throughout the show they're trying to find some way to find dirt on those in charge, or have them try to build a secret base of operations designed for letting them go out and fight without the government noticing. These two aren't the same squeaky clean guy as Captain America in his early days. Make them a bit sneakier and more willing to get their hands dirty, which will not only add a cool dynamic to the show, but will also really enhance their characters. The thing is, there's a lot of ways for this show to be good, not just limited to the stuff I brought up here, but I still have my doubts. I do trust Marvel, and they've surprised me with things that are really good that I never expected to be good in the first place, but I still feel like they might have played it a bit too safe with this one, and it's not really going to have anything in it that'll blow us away. Still, I would love nothing more than to be proven wrong. Let me know your guys' thoughts on how you think this show is going to shake out, if you're excited, if you're skeptical, and what can the show do to really make itself stand out? Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe because you'll be getting content at least once a week, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.